The first stock I want to cover here for today is about Dell Technology. It's a really good stock, and it has come to my radar recently because it had a good volume spike on a regular basis. You could see, I'm sharing the chart here too. You could see there's a good spike here. It has come to my radar at that phase. Then gradually I could see a lot of accumulation going on. People were buying this particular stock and very less distribution on the way. First thing I look at it is where in the life cycle this particular stock is in. If you go back to 2020, it has just moved above the 200 days moving average. The pink line is the 200 days moving average, and it has seen really good trend here. It has grown significantly well at this stage, close to 121 percentage, and after that, it did it did take a stagnation phase, stayed to the sideways for close to 100 days, and then from there the trend actually went down. It went to the decline phase. Decline phase again, minus 38 percentage decline, which is okay, decent, I would say. And then off late, it has been there in the base for a little bit longer, and then it has come out the 200 days moving average recently, which is April 2023, and then you can see the trend after that. The trend is really good. It is actually doing very well past a year or close to a year. You can see there's 107 percentage growth. The stock has been trending really well half late, and the technicals are also really sound technicals. You can see it is above 200 days moving average, 150-day moving average, 50 days and 20 days. So it's been always in the higher level, and it has a regular pullback, touches the 20, 50 days moving average, and then it picks up again. So this is a very good trend, and you can see looking at this chart that anything hitting the 50 days moving average, that's where again the next level of spike happens. So if you have to buy the stock, wait for that pullbacks to happen. I know recently there was a pullback. It did hit the 50 days moving average and then spiked up. I do have a position in the stock. I did purchase it. When did I purchase? I think I purchased it somewhere around $80. The stock has been doing really well off late, so I stayed with it, and I'm doing it in a smaller batch. Initially when I looked at the stock, this is a very common stock. A lot of investors have invested in this particular stock, so I tend to take a more cautious approach where I don't just blindly put everything into this particular stock. What do I do is I do a batch purchase, in the sense of smaller batches, and I accumulate them on a multiple times. So I did buy multiple batches of this stock. As it does the pullback, that's when I get into the stock. So that's kind of my approach in my buy model or buy strategy. So looking at it, it is in a good trend. Weekly, when I switch back to weekly, you could probably see there's a steep growth. You can see there's a very good growth weekly. So even if you see a day level not doing well, but when you switch to the weekly level or weekly chart, you could see that the stock has been doing very well. It is very healthy stock, and off late, the good news are coming out about Dell. Some of the third quarter financial results were very good, beyond the analyst expectation. And then they recently have some partnership with Microsoft. They are building up some kind of migration effort here, trying to move their customers from hybrid cloud into a pure cloud model. Whoever is part of the VMware hybrid model or kind of in a on-prem model, they're helping those customers to migrate into Azure cloud in more of an hybrid cloud model. So that's kind of their strategy. They're working closely with Microsoft on that. That's the good news. And some of these positive energy actually generating that you can see in the stock too. You could see the price movement is very good there. Looking at some of the technicals, as I said, the whether it is a weekly or a daily, you could see the prices above all the moving averages, which is a good sign that it is trending in the right direction. In the weekly, you can see it's very steep. The growth is very good. On a daily, I see a similar pattern too. So you can see a very steady growth here. From the RSI standpoint, a volume, before going to the RSI volume, I could see steady accumulation here. Very less distribution. You can see off late, very less distribution. Only accumulation is going on. When I say accumulation, it's buy. People are buying the stock on a regular basis. Very few of them are selling. That's a good sign. And from the RSI standpoint, and you could see this is a good buy point. There was a pullback hitting 70 something. This is a point where you buy, stay with it. Anything hitting the 50 days moving average, the yellow line, is when I would consider it as a buy signal. Because looking at the trend, it says, hey, whenever you touch 50, you spike up. That's kind of the trend I see. So that's a model I look at it. And so when I look at the RSI, it's 36-year. That's a favorable buy point. So, and then again, there's one more buy point here. There was one more favorable buy point here, which is 47 something. It has close to the 50 days moving average, and then it spiked up. So off late, it has been doing good. I think the past 2 to 3 days of trading days, the stock has actually went touched the new high, which is 90. So it's a really good stock. Um, Trend will continue. I'm expecting the trend will continue. There will be a pullback, definitely. Looking at the trend, once it hits this peak, RSI hits a peak, and that's when I could see the trend should come down. You could basically see it should probably go slightly above as it hits the peak RSI, which is 70, and then it should pull back closer to the the 50 days moving average. Looking at the trend for 50 days moving average, which I see here is this way. So at some point close to 85, 84 is when again it touches and then goes up again. So the price should touch the 50 days moving average and then it should go up. But closely watch on the RSI too. It should when the demand hits the peak, then it should gradually come down. That's where I see touching here close to that 85, 84 range, maybe lesser than that, and then it should go up. So looking at the technicals, that's what I could see the trend is going to be, but keep an eye on it. Really good stock. I've invested in it. I have a position in it. When you're not sure on some of these stocks and how they're trending, especially if you look at it, this is in a very good growth phase. It just came out of the base. This is in the growth phase or accelerating phase in the life cycle. If you have missed my previous video about life cycle of stocks, please look at it. I will post it in the description section too. It is in the growth phase. There would it hit the stagnation phase? At some point, it will hit the stagnation phase, but for now, all the positive news actually driving the price to the higher. So keep an eye on it. It's a really good stock. Wait for the pullbacks. Closely monitor the 50 days moving average. That's a point where I would say it's a buy point because it has never touched 150 or 200. It is always touching the 50. So wait for that price to hit the 50 days moving average and then invest invest in it. Buy smaller batches and accumulate. That way, you don't feel that much pressure putting it one shot and being anxious whether the price will be moving up or down. So I'm invested in it. Keep an eye on this particular stock. United Rental Inc. This is one of my favorite stock. I've been following this stock close to 5 6 years, and every time I invest in the stock, it has always given me a profit. I generally mark these types of stocks as my favorite stocks, and I keep it in my watch list, always monitoring them. Whenever it hits that favorable point of buying, I tend to put some money without considering anything. That sometimes it is a mistake too. You have to look at all the economy data as well as the current market trends and all those things. But sometimes, if you have a conviction on a particular stock, go with it. And they've been doing very well. Because I kind of put money in the stock when in the pandemic time again. Pandemic time, it has been underwater. And after that, June, mid of pandemic time is when I started investing in the stock. Prior to that, it has been in my radar, but I've never bought the stock previously. So again, pandemic is a phase where rules are being tested because it's an abnormal spiked down, economy going down, as well as hitting some bearish market. So I consider it as a reset of some of these stocks, and it has came out very well post pandemic. I think mid of pandemic is when it picked up, when the rental market actually was really doing well. I did invest whenever there was a pullback. I pulled out the money, kind of made money by selling the stocks and then gradually accumulating it. So first thing which I look at it is the life cycle. Okay, I do see it was in the base. Then looking at the trend line, if I draw the trend line here, there's a really good growth here. I'll probably consider the growth here as well as somewhere here, which is like 130 percentage. So the price actually really appreciated very well. Then it took a sideways turn, then spiked up, then it came down a decline phase. I would consider this as a decline phase. Again, it has lost quite a bit of value at that period, 36 percentage again in 160 days. So I'm in the day chart, and then it stayed in the base, and then again there's a really good growth phase. The price actually appreciated very well, close to 50 percentage in 91 days of trading. Then decline phase, then a growth phase, then a decline phase. So some of these stocks, right, generally I stick to these stocks because it gives you a very good idea when to invest in, and it has really more predictable trends here. That's the key for this particular stock. And I see that when the price movement goes down 200 days moving average, I take the money off, and then when it comes back, I put it back in, and the same thing, the trend goes on. Off late, it has been doing really good here. It has came out of the 200 days moving average recently, which I think November 2023. That's when the price appreciated close to 50 percentage. So that's a really good trend I see. I'm not invested in this stock recently because it has actually gone past my price range. My price range is slightly lesser than this one. So I monitor the stock, but I will wait for the stock to come back and hit again another pullback. I'm waiting for the pullback to happen. So if you look at this by looking at some of the technicals here, you could see that this is the RSI here at 33. That's when it started spiking. So this is a more favorable state of buying. So let me draw a line here. This is a favorable state of buying. You could see the trend is really good. The price went up. At this point, it has stagnated. Then it came down. The RSI shows you clearly when it came down. There was a pullback here, and then again another spike here, and then there's a gradual sideways movement. So I'm expecting maybe another sideways movement here for this particular stock. So the RSI should tell you it should basically come down. Would it come down further below 50? I'm not sure. We have to wait and see because this stock has been really hot in the market. So you could see that when you hit that favorable, maybe a 50 percentage RSI, investors will jump in and probably pull the stock up. So keep an eye on it. That's my prediction, but we'll wait and see. So looking at the price movement, it's going to follow the same. It's going to follow the same RSI. So I should see some level of churn this way, maybe slightly down, and then pick it up. So that's kind of the model I see. But if you have a really good pullback, as I've seen in the historically, it has, if the trend is towards the 200 days moving average, then wait for this price to hit the 200 days moving average. Otherwise, if you look at the recent trend, it is always hitting the 20 days moving average. So it has touched the 20 days moving average. There's a chance that you could slightly see a sideways movement and then up again. Again, this is a really good stock. I keep monitoring it. The price is currently out of my range, but for investors who feel like this price range is their range, always a good stock to invest in. So keep an eye on it. The next company we're going to talk about, a company called Block. Previously, they've been called as Square Inc. This is a very good company. It has multiple companies in its multiple businesses. One of the primary businesses to provide a point of sale register for small businesses. You can use your smartphone tablets as your point of sale. Point of sale is nothing but a device which would help you to run the payment. If you're running a restaurant business or a small business, if you want to get your customer pay your bill, you can you can turn your smartphone into a point of sale register. You can swipe the card and then get the payment done through the credit card. That's their primary business. They have done very well in the pandemic period. In addition to that, they have other businesses or kind of apps in their portfolio. One of them is the Cash App, which is a very familiar one. Consumers use this app for peer-to-peer transactions, direct deposits, saving accounts, debit card transfers, investing in stocks and other stuff. In addition to that, they also have a platform for supporting the Bitcoin related transactions. They have multiple businesses. And in addition to that, they have other businesses like the Afterpay, which is buy now, pay later kind of concept. They also have a music streaming business. So there are a bunch of businesses combined under Square, or now we call it as a block. So if I look at the 6 months chart, they actually came out of the base somewhere end of October. It's kind of a Santa Claus rally holiday period. They had a really good price movement. You can see they started off around $49. They came out of the base. This is the 200 days moving average. They came out of the base and they had a really good run till end of the December, close to 100% growth. So that's a really good growth. And then after that, the new year started. They had a kind of sideways churn, which is kind of a very common thing in all these stocks. Once they complete that holiday period, they get into this churn period. But this is a really good company, as I explained previously. If I switch back to the yearly chart, you could see there's a really good pattern getting formed here. This is actually, if you're familiar with the cup and handle pattern, you can see this is a really good cup formation. If the formation is true, then there's a good chance that there's a good momentum upward directions. If the positive sentiment is there in the market, good chance that the price movement will also be up. But if you look at this particular chart and 200 days moving average, it's in and out of the 200 days moving average. If I scroll a little bit, you can see that 200 days moving average is here. The pink line is the 200 days moving average, and the price is actually moving very closer to the 200 days moving average. So I generally consider this as a base period. But if I analyze the entire life cycle here, I want to first look at what stages it has gone through in the life cycle. So if I look at this particular chart, you can see a classic life cycle here. You have a base, then you have a steady growth, and then you have a sideways movement, which is kind of the stagnation period, then a decline phase all the way till here, and then again the base. So this is a classic 4 stages or 4 life cycle, I would call it as for my terminology. Base, growth, stagnation, and decline. 4 phases, and then again in the base. So it is in the base period right now. It has opportunities. We have to wait and see how the price movement is, price volume, and RSI movement is. And then based on that, we can decide whether to be invested or not. Past 6 months, it has been trending very well and it has a good formation too. If I look at it, you can see the good formation, cup formation. And looking into the volume, obviously there was a spike here. That's why this particular stock came into my radar. RSI, it has hit the peak. Definitely, it has hit the peak, and it is kind of going down. If you're looking at a buy opportunity, wait till the RSI hits this range between 30 to 45 range. That's a good time to enter. So I'm expecting some price churn downwards and then pick it up. If you're a swing trader, this is an exciting period for you. You have this cup pattern. There's a good chance that there will be a spike, and I'm expecting some kind of price movement upward direction if the positive sentiment is there in the market. If you're a long-term investor, I would probably switch back to the weekly chart and check it out. Weekly chart, it's still not there. 200 days moving average is here. still below the 200 days moving average, I tend to stay away. If I'm a long-term investor, I tend to stay away. I want the price to, or generally stock to tell me when to get in. And I think the primary indicator is once it crosses the 200 days moving average and there's a decent pullback happens, that's the point I generally tend to get in if I'm a long-term investor. But if you're a swing trader, I think this is a good opportunity here. If you look at it, it just gone past the 200 days moving average. It had a decent pullback, and then it is trying to go up. So if you have invested somewhere in this time period, I think that's a good time. You had a really good profit too. It is trending in the right direction. So wait for the stock to tell you when to get in. It has a decent volume too. Looking at the volume, past six, kind of since November onwards, there are more accumulations, decent distribution, not that much, but scattered distributions definitely. But wait for the stock to tell you when to get in. I know you can see the RSI movement too. It has just spiked up, and I'm expecting that to come back and churn between 40 and 45. Wait for that moment to hit. So overall, the company has been doing well, steady growth, not a huge excitement, but we have opportunities, especially for swing traders. We have opportunities here. Keep a close eye on it. If you're a long-term investor, wait for the price to move up this 129 mark, which I consider this as the point to get in. I would probably wait for that particular point, price point to come in, and then take advantage of it.